I'm not going to overreact because I do think I saw a lot more good than bad.
It wasn't a good start. 24 second quarter points, unacceptable. Timeout before half. The onside kick, unacceptable. You're not going to win 7 games playing like that. Am I being a complete dick? Probably. You know what?
I think you are.
The reality is I'm not changing my expectations. I'm not moving off of my expectation for a NFL franchise, for an NFL coach. Dan Campbell addresses, quote, the elephant in the room in regards to the play calling decisions, the timeouts, clock management, the onside kick. A lot of his pain points and his explanations were, I wanted the ball back.
Right.
I wanted one more possession. I felt like we could make a stop. I trusted my defense, etc., etc., etc. What are we walking away with after week 1 with Dan Campbell?
Listen, and I respect Dan, number one, for admitting and coming out and explaining his decision and his mindset during those moments. One thing that I'm slowly, it's an easier pill to swallow the more I think about it. We have to trust Dan Campbell. I mean, at the end of the day, whether you agree or disagree with his decision-making, you wait till the end of the season, or at least deep in the season, to where you can really step back and look at it from a 4,000-foot view, and you can criticize him. Right now in Game 1, I'm not going to sit here and crap on Dan Campbell because of what he felt like was a good decision. That was his decision. It didn't work out. If it did work out, we'd all be sitting here cheering. So, again, I think it's nitpicking Game 1 to say you lose by 3 to a team that I think has a Super Bowl roster. We'll find out about Jalen Hurts, but I do like the Eagles roster a lot. And I think there's a lot of good things you could have taken away from that game. Devontae Smith not catching a ball would be number one off the top of my head. But going in, it's the Dan Campbell onside kick, whether you like it or not. The big picture is, does this affect them down the line? If they still finish the year with 7-8 wins, I don't think anybody really gives a damn about week 1 and the onside kick and the timeout before half. It's really the big picture for me. And yeah, you're 0-1. It's how I expected them to start. You don't know how these games are going to go. That's why we talked, at a lot about context of games and how that matters. It absolutely does. But for me, talking about this Lions team in week 1 and seeing how a lot of other teams performed week 1, and seeing Dan Campbell going for that onside kick, I get why people would question it. I get why people would be skeptical of it, considering last year there's a lot of decisions that Dan made that went the opposite way and lost them games. But I just think it's too early to sit here and pull out the pitchforks for Dan Campbell. I mean, honestly, we got to have a bigger sample size for it. We'll see. I think Dan will learn from this. Again, you see him after the press conference. He admitted, this is my mindset. I get where you guys are coming from, questioning my decision. But at the end of the day, it's what Dan felt like was the right decision. If we think Dan's the right guy, then you trust his decision-making. So we'll see. We'll see how this adds up. I'm not going to sit here and overreact, but I'm also not going to sit here and easily blindfold myself and be okay with everything Dan does. You got to criticize something. But we'll see. I'm not going to overreact until we're deep in the season and this team has taken a complete downfall and we can start bringing up decisions. But until then, I'm not going to overreact to it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Look, it's not about overreacting. Are you right about big picture? Sure. Right? If you could tell me, and I could see 18 weeks from now, they were a 7-10 football team, let's say, right? Well, okay. That's easy to say. But it's all talk. Not you.
I get
it. But
it.
It is just talk, Jeff. It just is. What do I have to work with right now? What do I actually have to work with? One game. That's all I have. On top of the 17 last year, on top of the 5 with him as the interim. But mainly the 17 last year and the 1 this year. That's all I got. It's easy to say, and it's nice to think, well, at the end of the year, let's have the conversation because we know, oh, well, if it works out this way, it's all talk. And again, I watched 4 or 5 football teams over this past weekend win games they had no business winning. Well, on the road, at home, and I'm not saying that the Lions have to win the Eagles game or they should
context does matter.
But you had an opportunity there, and the other teams figured it out, and they took care of business, and you didn't.
Well, that defense.
I understand. I really do. Yeah. I understand. But whose team is it? Again, I have one game to work off. It wasn't a good game. It wasn't a good start. 24 second quarter points, unacceptable. Timeout before half. The onside kick, unacceptable. If you tell me, again, we can do this all day. Well, Adam, they're going to finish 7-10. Okay. So, like, what is there to talk about? Because that would be improvement and what I believe this team's trajectory is. But you're not going to win 7 games playing like that. It was an improvement. Scoring, 14 fourth quarter points? Just like you did last year against the Niners, you scored 16. Come on. Let's be a little fair here, okay? Let's be a little objective. I have 1 game to work off this season. It wasn't the best game. It doesn't define their whole season. But like it doesn't define their whole season, we can't sit here and say, oh, there's the rest of the season and it'll work out. How about we just talk about what we saw on Sunday? Because that's all I have in front of me. And on this upcoming Sunday, we'll talk about the Washington Commanders, how they played, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
But didn't you say before the season that this offense was going to be the reason that if they have a chance to win a lot of these games, it's going to be because of offense?
Yes.
And that's what you saw. I mean, defensively, they couldn't stop Jalen Hurts. I mean, again, the fourth quarter, they didn't score. But you talked about it, 24 in the second quarter. Like, yeah, just say, we talked about this yesterday. Are you encouraged or discouraged?
Oh, no,
discouraged
I'm very encouraged. I saw a lot of good things.
But you didn't like the 2 decisions he made.
I didn't like the coaching decisions.
Okay.
I did not like the play of the defense. Very, very poor containment by the defensive front.
Right, which, yeah,
so
they struggled.
Secondary play had some moments, good and bad. I can take away positives from the first game. Don't get me wrong. But for us to just sit here and gloss over it because it was the Eagles and we didn't expect to beat them, and hey, there's still the rest of the season. I've been hearing that forever. Forever. And I am just tired of it. It's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. I don't see it.
And I listen, I get the frustration because you have these expectations, especially from a coaching perspective. We talked about Dan Campbell. But overall, like, versus what you saw that encouraged you versus what discouraged you, you could bring up the onside. Okay, you didn't like it. Okay, so be it. You didn't like the timeout before the half. Okay, so be it. At least Dan gave you an honest perspective of what he was thinking. Whether you agree or disagree, we'll see how the season pans out. But from a team perspective, defensively, I'm with you. They didn't do a good job containing Jalen Hurts. But did we think they would do an excellent job containing Jalen Hurts? Because I thought they'd struggle against Jalen Hurts. That's why I had them losing. So, I'm not too surprised by what I saw. If anything, I'm encouraged offensively to be able to score, end up with 35 against that defense for Philadelphia. I get it's week 1. But I get where you're coming from, but overall, I was able to take away more things that I liked rather than looking at the 2 things that Dan Campbell did. Because if you look around the league, I'm sure there's a lot of things that a lot of teams didn't like what their coaches did. But with Dan, I get it. You're a little frustrated by the onside, but we have to see if he learns from it. We have to see how he adjusts to it in his decision-making going forward. I'm not going to overreact because I do think I saw a lot more good than bad, and I think that's a good thing to take away from a game that I didn't think they'd win regardless. So that's how I feel.
Look, can we just agree? Let's find some common ground here. Is the season over? I think we'd both answer no. Is it time to overreact and hit the panic button? Would we both agree and say no?
No, you're not panicking.
But what do I have to work with, Jeff?
A team that played a Philly very, very close. I get they gave up the pick 6. Defensively, they weren't very good.
They played the Niners close last year, didn't they?
Well, in the fourth quarter, they had to go for 2 onsides to try and get the ball back.
I understand.
The context was different.
But they outscored the Niners 16-3 in the fourth quarter.
But they also didn't spot the Niners 7 because of Jared Goff's pick 6. So it's,
I could have sworn they actually got a pick 6 that game. I'm not going to lie to you.
Right,
I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay, forget it. But the point I'm making is you can't overreact to the week 1. I think there was a lot more things you liked. Come on, you got to admit it. If you want to bring up Dan and his 2 decisions, you can, but it's not going to. Overall, the defense couldn't stop them. Like, I don't think Dan's onside or the timeout before half would have shifted momentum. If Jared doesn't throw the pick 6, maybe that's a different conversation. But I'm just asking you, what were you discouraged by, or what are you questioning besides Dan? Is it just Dan from a coaching perspective?
It's not that I'm questioning Dan. No.
It's just you want them to beat good teams if you have a chance to beat them. Is that your point?
There's multiple points, with that being one of them.
Okay.
It is a. Jeff, please hear me out.
I'm listening.
Because I know I'm difficult sometimes.
I'm all ears.
But really, just hear the point I'm trying to make this morning.
Okay.
I'm not pinning it on Dan Campbell. That performance was not all that great on defense. We all know how talentless they are on defense and that they have a long way to go. We all knew the offense would be the brighter spot of this team going into the year. Like, we have a lot of common ground here, everybody. But where you lose me is with a timeout before half, instead of going in down 7, you go in now down 10. It backfires on you. They come out and score out of the half. Now you're down 17 instead of 14. So now you're down 3 instead of 2. Mm-hmm. You score, and instead of making it a 1-possession game, you make it a 2-possession game. And instead of kicking it off, and hopefully your second half adjustments, that your job as a coach is to make, instead of relying on that, you go for the onside kick, gives them a short field, they go down, they score. The rest is history. And no, ladies and gentlemen, this is not hindsight, 2020. But I don't want to beat a dead horse. Micro Mike is joining us in just a bit. We'll ask him all of this. Am I being a complete dick? Probably. You know what?
I think you are.
The reality is I'm not changing my expectations. I'm not moving off of my expectation for a NFL franchise, for an NFL coach. I'm not doing it. Like it or not.